All aboard the Magic School Bus. This bright yellow rig is Trex brand new Fuel EX, and they're billing it as the bike for everything. For the new Fuel EX, Trex essentially tore the bike down and redesigned it completely. It is now a 140 rear, 150 front bike, where you can adjust damn near every detail of the frame. I'll start at the front. The head angle comes in a neutral setting at 64.5, but they also come with press-in cups that you can change by 1 degree in either direction. So you can slack it out to 63.5 or steepen it to 65.5. That's pretty extreme differences in both directions. Super fun to play with. It comes with the Minnow Link. That's the same that Trex been using for a while. Really nice to have that feature as well. And I think if you're playing with the head angle, you're gonna have to adjust that as well. So tons of different options here. New to this frame, it's got a more or less progressive flip chip. So the less progressive, like more linear mode is I think somewhere in the high teens. It gets up to about 20% in the progressive mode. I'd almost vote to see it like the more progressive is the least of the two, and you have something more than that, but that's just me. I'm riding a size large, and in the current configuration, that's a 485 reach with a 620-ish stack, so a little lower on the stack end of the spectrum, but I think that suits the nature of the bike pretty well. The chainstays are 440 on this, and the one notable thing that's completely new to this bike is it can be run as a mullet. All the rage right now. All you have to do is pop a 27.5-inch wheel in, put the bottom bracket in high mode, and they suggest that you then bump your travel of your fork up 10 mil. So you'd have like a 160, 140 mullet bike. Be really fun in steep terrain, for jumps, for all that sort of stuff. I've only run it in the 29er setup, so I can't speak to the mullet too much, but really cool to have that option. Again, you can tweak this bike in any direction you want. I've really just been testing it in like its most neutral mode, and I've been impressed with it in that neutral mode. First impressions on the bike, I'm a fan. My like one sentence takeaway is it's a trail bike that really likes to ride fast. That's up, that's down. I've been pedaling this a lot, and I'm impressed by its climbing. I've been riding a bunch of different bikes recently. This one feels like it has the most neutral pedaling platform. I know I'm saying a lot of neutral, like extra medium thoughts on this bike, but it does that really well. It like supports you under pedaling, but the rear wheel gets out of the way when you want it to. It has pretty good grip for a 140 bike with an air shock that has good support. Like, I've been impressed by it. And it because of that lower stack, it like feels like a bike that you want to pedal. It kind of encourages that. And it's a really light build kit as it sits. You turn it around and it descends wonderfully. I haven't touched the climb switch on this. I don't think you need to. The shock, like the suspension setup in that progressive mode, for me, does all of it really well. The off the top feel is quite nice. It has good enough mid-stroke support to like really push into stuff. And the geometry of the bike in this like middle setting feels great. The stack is a bit low for steeper terrain. I think if it didn't have this one-piece bar, you could pop a higher rise handlebar on it or a shorter stem. This is effectively a 45 mil stem, so you do feel like you're a bit over the front when it gets really steep and you're on the brakes a lot. But generally, it's just a great bike for like pulling out of the garage, like going out to a trail system and kind of ripping around all day. There's nothing too remarkable as it's set up. I think you could make it extreme. You could make that head angle really slack, drop the bottom bracket low or high, depending on your like rockiness of your terrain. But for me, in Bellingham, Washington, we've got jumps, roots, fast berms. The bike feels supportive enough for all that. And the rear suspension is soft enough to like get out of the way. I don't feel like I'm getting bucked at any point. And it's been quick. Like, you can really rip trail on it, and it's a good time. This is the highest end build you can get. We don't have pricing, but it's somewhere north of 10K, staggering number. It has all the nicest stuff. You've got factory suspension front and rear. You've got axis, drivetrain, and seat post, some fancy carbon wheels, this beautiful one-piece carbon handlebar dealio, nice brakes, whole 9 yards. It comes with a few things that I wouldn't personally choose. Within the first couple rides, I took the Bontrager tires off. I really don't like them. The casing is nice, the tread pattern is good, but the compound, it's not there. It doesn't work in the wet very well. I found it pretty unpredictable. I hope to see that improve. They're good durability-wise, so you can keep it on the rear in the dry, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's a high-end spec. I mean, there's like little to be desired in terms of brakes. Drivetrain's good. I don't personally love axis just because I find it slaps around a bunch, but that's just me. There's a lot of like really beautiful frame appointments. You've got the like multi-tool thing in the headset. That works quite well, really good tool. Trex frame storage, which is one of the more refined of the different versions we've seen. I think it has the best like waterproofness to it. Like I've noticed there's like way less water ingress than compared to Specialized or Santa Cruz's. The wheel set is really nice. I find it's pretty stiff, but appropriate to this bike. Like this doesn't feel harsh by any means. It comes with a rim strip, which makes it hard to get some tires on. That's a bit of a bummer. The handlebar stem combo, really cool, looks awesome. It's effectively a 45 mil stem, which I think is a bit long for this bike, and it's really stiff. For some people, maybe you want that. Like I find like a 35 bore aluminum bar is just fine for me. I like being able to change the height and roll of my bars, and you can't do that with this. So, pros and cons. It's really light, looks good, and it has like an accessory mount for all of Trex aftermarket components for that, so that's kind of clean. I think this might compare more directly to the new Hightower because the numbers are identical between those two, and Geo is quite similar between them as I have it set up right now. I think I prefer this. I spent a lot of time on both in similar terrain, and ultimately like the Trek just impressed me more often. It pedals really nicely. Like the Hightower has a sportier pedaling platform, but then that starts to bite it on the descents where it gets like chopped out in rough stuff. This Trek doesn't really have that. It does really nicely in rough terrain, and I've been a fan. You're hard pressed to find a bad bike on the market. Everyone's making stuff that's really impressive. This one stands out as something that is a killer neutral platform that you could iterate on in different directions. So if you're someone who loves to tinker with your bike, rides a variety of terrain and wants to be able to change things to adapt to that, this is gonna be awesome. But ultimately, like, I think all the little like bits and bobs that you can flip on this bike are sweet, but I know that like 95% of people are gonna set it in one way and leave it like that. That's what I've done with my Stumpy. After like trying all the different settings, I've got it in one and I leave it that way. And I think for people who are going to do that, this is a killer bike for just like pulling out, going on long trail rides where you're gonna see a variety of terrain. It does really well in like traversing up, down, all over the place because it has such a nice pedaling platform, but descends just as well. I don't think it's gonna be the thing you're gonna take out for like a local enduro race necessarily, but you certainly could. It's not held back in that way. And because you can change that head angle, change the rear wheel size, you can make it the bike for that terrain if you want. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is a pretty perfect all-rounder bike. Trek did a really good job of making everything extra medium in that neutral setting. You can push it extreme, you can push it more conservative, but ultimately the choice is up to you. I'm excited to see how people start playing with these bikes, building them differently, and I'm gonna do the same myself. Excited to ride this more. This is the new Fuel EX. I'm Dario, this is the Loam Wolf. Be sure to subscribe for more content on this bike. Leave a comment if you have any questions about the bike, how it maybe compares to the new Fuel EXE, which we've been riding as well. And we're excited to see him out on the trails. Peace.